Nadhim Zadawi. Now, he really does set records when it comes to a total lack of morality. And I don't just mean the fact that while he was Chancellor, so the guy who was in charge of our taxes, he got fined £5 million by HMRC for not paying his taxes. I mean that when cabinet ministers were resigning en masse because Boris Johnson had hired Chris Pincher to be the deputy chief whip of the party, so in charge of the party's discipline, even though he knew that there were multiple allegations of sexual misconduct against Chris Pincher, calling him Pincher by name, Pincher by nature, Nadhim Zadawi then took a cabinet job in Boris Johnson's disgraced government and then went on TV to defend him.
Do you think this Prime Minister has integrity?
I do. I think he...
So we need to know.
Well, because he's determined to deliver for this country. The people, by the way, who are egging us on to divide and to turn on one another are people like Alistair Campbell. And wherever Alistair Campbell is, you want to be on the opposite side of the argument, in my view. By the way, this is a team game, and you play for the team and you deliver for the nation. Okay. Right? The Prime Minister is right.
It's a sex pest.
He is right. The Prime Minister was right to apologise and say that, with the benefit of hindsight, it was the wrong appointment. We make decisions.
You said Pincher by name, Pincher by nature. And you want to serve as this man's Chancellor?
Okay, we make decisions at warp speed in government. There are no easy decisions to make.
And then as even more cabinet ministers resigned, and so it looked like Boris Johnson simply wasn't going to have enough people to run a government, just 24 hours after Nadhim Zadawi went on TV to defend Boris Johnson, he published a letter condemning Boris Johnson and calling for him to quit. So we are talking absolutely zero morals here. Happy to be hired by somebody who knowingly hires sex pests, and then within hours of that, claim to be outraged by it. And you need to know that because it tells you the kind of people that the Tories hire when they want to claim to be racially diverse. Because that's not the only time he defended Boris Johnson.
This is a Prime Minister who's said that he likened Muslim women to letterboxes and bank robbers.
Well, it's also the Prime Minister that has promoted Nadhim Zadawi to Secretary of State of Education, Sajid Javid to Health Secretary.
In that clip, he was told about the clearly anti-Muslim rhetoric of that government, and so he explicitly used his presence in the government as proof that they're not bigoted. He knew the role he was playing. The Chris Pincher story proves that there is nothing he wouldn't support if it meant getting a government job. And in this case, he was happy to use himself as the token brown guy to give Boris Johnson a get-out-of-racism free card. Nadhim Zadawi showed us we need to be smarter about racism in politics, that racist politicians and media will use black and brown faces to pretend to be tolerant even though they actually don't give a crap about black and brown people. For example,
how many black people are in the current cabinet?
There's a whole series of people from a black and minority ethnic background. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, the Home Secretary, to name but two.
I'm just talking about blacks. I'm talking about black people specifically because I do think it's quite important not to lump everyone from non-white backgrounds together, because obviously Asian people, for example, face prejudice too, but it might be a different prejudice to that faced by black people.
Well, I think that Boris Johnson has got a very good record on this, and it brings people in and listens to a diversity of views, and it's diversity of thought that's the really important thing when you're taking those big decisions around the cabinet table.
So actually, are you saying then that people from black backgrounds shouldn't really worry that there isn't a single person from a black background at the current cabinet table because you have diversity of thought?
So as for Nadhim Zadawi, may he never know rest or peace.